La Maison D'Or had been my family's regular Thursday night spot for 20 years. The upscale French restaurant chain was where we'd celebrated every promotion, graduation, and engagement, until 6 months ago, when they decided I no longer deserved a seat at their table. Tonight, I watched through the restaurant's front window as they settled into their usual corner booth. Dad straightening his tie, Mom arranging her pearls, my brother James holding court about his latest legal victory. My phone buzzed with an incoming text from Marcus, my CFO. Acquisition complete. Board approval unanimous. You now own 100% of La Maison Restaurant Group. I smiled thinking about the past 6 months. While my family thought I was processing my shame, after coming out, I'd been orchestrating the largest restaurant acquisition in the city's history. The private equity firm I'd built had quietly been buying up shares in the La Maison Restaurant Group, culminating in today's final purchase. Miss Chin. The restaurant's manager, Philippe, approached nervously. Everything is prepared as you requested. I smoothed my designer suit worth more than the combined cost of everyone's outfit inside, and nodded. Thank you, Philippe. Shall we? The heavy wooden doors opened silently as I entered the restaurant where I was no longer welcome as a daughter, but now owned as a suit. Your usual Bordeaux, Mr. Chin? I heard the waiter ask my father. Of course, Thomas. And we'll start with the usual appetizers. Just the 4 of us tonight as always. As always. Because 6 months ago Dad had texted, don't show up anymore. We can't have your lifestyle choices embarrassing the family at dinner. I moved quietly through the restaurant, watching as Thomas approached their table with the wine list. Right on cue my phone buzzed, the signal that the press release had just gone live. James was first to notice, his phone lighting up with notifications. His face went pale as he read the headline. La Maison Restaurant Group acquired by rising star investment firm. So Sarah Chin. He stammered. Mom's fork clattered against fine china. Dad's hand froze midway to his wine glass. Thomas approached their table again, this time with a different energy. Welcome, Madam Owner, he said loudly, bowing slightly in my direction. Your usual table is ready. The silence that fell over their corner was deafening. Other regular patrons turned to stare, recognizing me from the society pages that had once celebrated the Chin family's achievements. Sarah. Mom whispered, her perfect composure cracking. Hello, family, I smiled, taking in their shocked expressions. I believe you're sitting at my table. The private dining room of La Maison D'Or had never felt more charged as my family practically stumbled in after me, abandoning their half-poured wine and untouched appetizers. This is impossible, James kept muttering, frantically scrolling through his phone. The purchase price, the market cap. 800 million, I supplied, casually taking a seat at the head of the table, Dad's usual spot. Though that includes all 30 locations across 3 states, the real estate holdings, and of course the wine cellars. But you're just... Mom trailed off, her hands fidgeting with her pearls. Just what, Mom? Just your disappointing daughter? Just the family embarrassment? I pulled out my tablet, displaying Rising Star Investments portfolio. Or just the CEO of a $3 billion investment firm? My phone buzzed, a message from Marcus, Wall Street Journal exclusive, ready to run. Rising Star CEO Sarah Chin, the woman revolutionizing restaurant investment. Also, Michelle Obama's office called about your LGBTQ+ business leadership initiative. All those society events you stopped inviting me to, I continued, made for excellent networking opportunities. Turns out other outcasts from good families control quite a lot of capital these days. Dad finally found his voice. The family money, you couldn't have used it for this? I laughed softly. No, I didn't touch your precious trust fund. The one you froze 6 months ago? I built this myself. Every dollar. James, the family lawyer, was still processing. But La Maison, it wasn't even for sale. Everything's for sale if you know how to make the right offer, I said, signaling Philippe. The board was particularly impressed by our plans to modernize the chain while preserving its heritage. Speaking of which, Philippe entered with a new bottle of wine, one from my personal collection. The 1982 Chateau Lafite, Madam Owner? And shall I have the chef prepare your special menu? Thank you, Philippe. And please bring 4 glasses. My family should experience what actual fine wine tastes like. Mom's hands trembled as she accepted the glass. Sarah, why didn't you tell us you were successful, powerful, or just happy being exactly who I am? I took a measured sip. Would it have mattered? Would it have changed how quickly you erased me from family photos? My phone buzzed again. Forbes 30 Under 30 profile confirmed. They want to feature your story of building an empire while facing family rejection. Your investments, Dad said quietly, staring at my tablet's display of Rising Stars holdings. They're all revolutionary companies led by people society overlooked. I nodded. LGBTQ+ founders, women, minorities, all the people good families like ours tend to dismiss. Turns out discrimination is terrible for business. James set down his phone, his Harvard MBA suddenly feeling inadequate. You built all this, while you were pretending I didn't exist? I finished. Yes. Because unlike you, I learned that authenticity is the greatest asset in business. And in life. The room fell silent as they processed the reality of their situation. Their favorite restaurant, their social sanctuary, was now owned by the daughter they'd banished. The press conference is tomorrow, I added, checking my schedule. CNN is leading with How Family Rejection Created a Business Empire. Interesting angle, don't you think? Mom looked up, tears threatening her perfect makeup. Darling, we were just trying to protect the family name. And how did that work out? I stood, walking to the window overlooking the city. Because from where I stand, the Chin name is about to become synonymous with something very different than what you intended. The next morning I stood in my real office, the top floor of a gleaming tower that housed Rising Star Investments. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of all 4 La Maison D'Or locations in the city, including the flagship restaurant where my family had tried to erase me. Miss Chen, my assistant Rebecca, entered. The media is assembled in the conference center. Your family is in the lobby along with the La Maison board members. I smiled, remembering all the times they'd made me use service entrances because they were embarrassed to be seen with me. Send them up. They entered looking painfully out of place among the modern art and pride flags that decorated my office. Gone were their condescending expressions, replaced by something that looked remarkably like fear. Before the press conference, I said, activating the wall of screens, let's see what Rising Star has really been building. Real-time data flowed across the displays. Investment metrics, company valuations, social impact statistics. Every number told a story of success achieved by those society had rejected. Your investment returns, James muttered, staring at the figures. They're higher than any traditional fund. Triple the market average, I confirmed. It turns out that when you invest in people who've had to fight for everything they have, they tend to work harder for success. Shocking, isn't it? My phone buzzed, a message from Tim Cook. Loved your coming out story in the Wall Street Journal. Dinner next week in Cupertino? Want to discuss potential partnerships. Mom picked up our latest investment prospectus, her hands shaking slightly. All these companies, they're run by people like me? I nodded. LGBTQ+ CEOs, women who refused arranged marriages, immigrants who chose their own paths. All the people good families try to hide away. Together we've built something more powerful than any country club network. Rebecca entered again. Miss Chin, the LGBTQ+ Business Leadership Council has arrived. They're excited to meet the new face of progressive investment. Dad looked up sharply. Leadership Council? Yes, I confirmed. We're launching a $1 billion fund specifically for LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs. Turns out there are a lot of talented people out there whose families chose prejudice over potential. I pressed a button and more data filled the screens. Lives changed, businesses transformed, communities empowered through our investment strategy. This is what modern success looks like, I continued. Not just profit margins and social status, but creating space for everyone to thrive. Even the ones you're taught to reject. James stepped forward, surprising everyone. The family name, this will change everything. It already has, I replied. Google Chin family now. The first results aren't about Dad's banking career or your law practice. They're about how rejection created one of the most successful investment firms in the country. My phone buzzed again. White House requesting your presence at Pride Month Economic Summit. Theme: the future of inclusive capitalism. Your sister's right, Mom said, her voice barely a whisper. We were so worried about appearances. That you missed the reality, I finished. Sometimes the people you're most ashamed of become the ones who redefine your legacy. The doors opened as the La Maison board members filed in, followed by a swarm of press. The contrast between their traditional business attire and my team's diverse, authentic presentation couldn't have been clearer. La Maison's future starts today, I said, picking up the new menu designs. We're not just preserving a restaurant chain, we're transforming it into a space where everyone is welcome. Where no one has to hide who they are. Philippe stepped forward with a rendering of the redesigned restaurants. The private dining room where you rejected Ms. Chin? He said to my parents. It's becoming our first LGBTQ+ youth support center. One in each location. Mom sank into a chair, her social standing visibly crumbling. Dad stared at the floor, his banking empire suddenly feeling hollow. You can either be part of this transformation, I continued, or watch from the outside. But either way, it's happening. The press began filing in, cameras ready. James finally spoke again, his voice heavy with realization. All those family dinners we had without you gave me time to build something bigger than family approval, I nodded. Sometimes rejection is just redirection to something better. As I took my place at the podium, I caught my reflection in the window. No longer the family disappointment who embarrassed them at dinner, but the woman who'd transformed rejection into revolution. Rebecca handed me the press release. La Maison D'Or announces inclusive dining initiative, and I felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about owning their favorite restaurant. It was about changing what success looked like for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. Good morning, I began, facing the cameras. Today we're not just announcing a business acquisition. We're announcing a new vision for what family, success, and belonging can mean. I saw my parents flinch at the word family, saw James shift uncomfortably as the cameras turned to capture their reactions. La Maison has always been about tradition, I continued. But traditions can evolve. They must evolve. Starting today, every La Maison location will be a sanctuary for those who've been rejected by their families. Every Thursday night, yes, the same night my family used to gather, will be dedicated to LGBTQ+ youth dinners, sponsored by Rising Star. The reporter's hands shot up, questions flying. But I wasn't done. To the parents out there considering rejecting their children for being who they are, remember this moment. Remember how the daughter you're ashamed of might just become someone who changes the world. Remember that the table you deny them a seat at, they might end up owning. I saw tears in Mom's eyes, saw Dad's hands trembling as he reached for her. But this wasn't about their redemption. It was about something bigger. And to everyone who's ever been told they don't belong, I concluded, pull up a chair. At my table there's always room for you. The room erupted in applause as cameras flashed. In that moment I wasn't just Sarah Chin, the disowned daughter. I was Sarah Chin, the woman who'd turned family rejection into a movement for change. And as I stood there watching my family realize that their social sanctuary would now become a beacon for everything they'd tried to hide, I knew this was just the beginning. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's using that success to ensure no one else has to experience the rejection you did.